Hi everyone, Sandy Vale here at Homesteading Ways, and today we're going to be canning up ham and bean soup. Okay, what I plan on doing is making 7 quarts of soup, but I'm going to have a little bit extra on some of my ingredients because I want to make some soup fresh on the stove for lunch today. So anyhow, we're going to start with our beans. I'm using Great Northern. You can use whatever white beans you want. And you're going to want, I'd say about 6.5 to 7 cups. To start with, I rinsed them and, pick through them. And then I put them on the stove in about 2-3 quarts of water and got them boiling. I let them boil for the 2 minutes, and then I took them off the stove and I let them sit for an hour or so. If it looks like you need more water in there, once they're done boiling, go ahead and add some hot water. But you let them rest for like an hour. It could be a little longer if need be. But then drain them out and then get them here in your bowl. The reason I do that is some people will fully cook their soup and then can it, which is fine. And then some people won't cook any of it and they put their beans in dry. And that's their prerogative. But I do it this way because it saves time, but it also doesn't fully cook the bean. I'm afraid if I can this soup where it's been cooking on the stove, that everything will get too soft, and I'd rather not do that. And then with the dried bean method, that I worry about the chemicals that give you gas not coming off of the beans, and believe me, my husband needs no more excuses to have extra gas, so this helps to cut down on that a little bit. So then besides the bean, then you're going to have your ham. I'm using ham steak. I did make a ham a couple weeks ago, but I didn't get around to making the soup quick enough, so I bought a ham steak, and in here is, I want to say, 3 to 4 cups. I'm not using as much ham as I would the beans, but it's up to you how much, the ratios you want to use. This is what I do. And then carrots, I don't know how many cups, I didn't really measure it out, but I want to say about 4 or 5 carrots chopped up. I like carrots a lot. I also like onions a lot, and I used purple just because I want that little pop of color. This was 2 medium-sized onions. And then celery. I'm not overly fond of celery, so this is just 2 ribs of celery sliced up. And I did cut my vegetables kind of big. I like the bigger chunks in soup, and then I feel like sometimes with the pressure canner, if you cut things too small, they just like disintegrate over time, and I didn't want that happening, so I cut them a little bit bigger. Also, I have garlic here. Now these are smaller cloves of garlic. I plan on putting 1 per quart of soup. If you have bigger cloves of garlic, then you may want to cut those in half. I have tomato paste. Then I have thyme, chili powder, and black pepper. Some people add liquid smoke. I don't do that. I'm not a big fan of the smoky flavor in my bean bacon soup or bean ham soup. Sometimes I do like a smoky flavor, but then that's usually a soup I'm making on the stove, and a lot of times I'll use sausage for that. You don't have to use the ham either. You can use ham hocks or whatever it is that you want to use. Just make sure to check your canning recipes. But okay, aside from the beans, let's get started with the water and the tomato paste. Alright, as you can see, this water is close to boiling, but not quite there yet. I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit. I put 3, almost 4 quarts of water in here. You may not need that much, but I'm just going to use what's left for the soup I'm making for lunch. So anyhow, I'm going to put a lot of tomato paste in here. So I want to say that it's probably coming out to be 3-4 tablespoons. I'm not using the whole can. There's probably a little less than half left in the can. And I'm just going to stir that up just so it melts together. Now when I make my bean and ham soup, I love it in the winter. Today's kind of a cool fall day, and I'm just so looking forward to having this on hand in the winter days when it's really cold and you just want something to fill you up and warm you up at the same time. But I don't want an overly heavy soup. I like it a little bit more on the thinner side, and I want some spice and some flavor in there, but I don't want it heavy. A lot of people will add a whole bunch of spices and different flavorings, and that's wonderful. If that's what you're looking for, you go right ahead. But this, I kind of just want a good broth and just a good flavor. If you'd like to add a little something more to it, you could add some bouillon to this. I was thinking of making the soup with my chicken broth. I can my own chicken broth. But I thought, no, I like to save that for when I'm making a soup on the stove fresh for that day. I don't want to use my canned broth to can a soup. But you can go ahead and add chicken bouillon or beef bouillon if you like to give it a little bit extra flavor. So this is completely mixed together. We're just going to get it to the boiling point. I want it to boil just a minute or two, and then I'll turn it down to just below boiling. I started getting the jars filled, and that's when I realized I wasn't going to have enough of the broth, so I ended up having to make some more. But let's get going showing you what to do. So you take about a cup of beans and put them in there. Overall, you're going to want your jars about halfway full of solid food here. So then start adding your ham, however much you want. Some people like a little, some like a lot. I'm going to put a decent amount in there. The beans and the ham are what's going to keep you full on those cold winter days. Between the fiber and the protein, your belly will be nice and warm and full for a long time. And it's the carrots and the other vegetables, along with the spices, that will give you those extra vitamins and minerals that you need. So we'll put a good amount of carrots in there, some onion. I like a lot of onion. That clove of garlic. A little bit of celery here. And then we'll add our spices. I'm going to do a teaspoon of the chili powder. Now, if you don't like chili powder, don't add it. If you do, maybe you want a little bit more. But I'm going to go with a teaspoon. Then I'm going to use a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And a 1/4 teaspoon as well of thyme. Now, thyme can get really strong. It can overpower stuff, and that's why I'm using such a small amount. It tastes great in the soup, but you don't want to use too much of it. And then we'll add our broth. Now, I may not have said it, but these jars have been sitting clean and hot in the canner, and that's how you want to bring them out. You never want to use a cold jar with hot soup like this, or really any kind of hot food. And I'm going to end up processing these for 90 minutes at 10 pounds pressure because I'm under 1,000 feet elevation. Go by your own elevation for processing times and weights, but quarts normally go for 90 minutes. Okay, we want an inch headspace, so it's looking pretty close to that, but I'm going to get these air bubbles out. Get those to rise to the top, or just break them up all together. When everything shifts around, your headspace may change. Just a tiny bit more. Now I know I changed how much of this broth here. I'm going to put all the ingredients and everything down in the description box So make sure to look at that when you're wanting to get your soup going. And then wipe your rims and get your lids on. I'm going to finish up these last few jars, and I'll get back to you. Alrighty, I got everything into the canner, and now I turn the heat up, and I'm going to get the lid on and get it going here. I just wanted to remind you guys, if I didn't say it before, you want an inch headroom on your jars. Those beans are going to continue to expand a little bit and soak up some more liquid, so you need that extra space. So make sure your jars have an inch headspace. Alrighty, everything's been out of the canner for quite a while now. I'm getting ready to check the seals. I think they're all good. If you look real close here, you can see I did lose a little bit of liquid in the canning process, but that's okay. You'll get some like leakage in your canning water, but don't worry about it. As long as your jars have sealed, that's what really matters. And I'm going to check the one here. It's good. See how thin the broth still looks, as opposed to a really thick substance. Now, as these sit, you may lose a little bit more of that because the beans may continue to absorb some of the liquid, and that's okay too. Just add some water as you're cooking it up. And I wanted to show you guys this. Here is the soup I made, because I had those extras, and oh my goodness, it is so good. It got a little thick as I was cooking it, so I did end up adding some more water to it, but it is so tasty. I mean, it's just got the right amount of flavoring to it. So go ahead and can up some ham bean soup so you'll have it on hand whenever you want. And thank you for watching the video. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you took the time. Please comment. Have you canned up soups, you know, different kinds, and what's your favorite? And subscribe. That would be awesome. It was really nice talking to you. And you take care.